Hi, I'm Shri Kumar and I am a RAL practitioner for the past 8 years, and I've been associated with Soul Searchers for close to 25 years and have had the blessings to learn from Shri Maitreya Rudrabhayananda ji since 1996. Over the period, I have understood the basic principles of RAL, which follows on the tenets of energy, matter and consciousness. I am a professional photographer and an advertising professional. So today I'll be talking to you about RAL and its subtle energies and how it has affected me, and I've also understood how I can lead a better life, much more peaceful, happier. Yes, it does have its ups and downs, not that I'm perfect, and including this video which I'm making is also the blessings and the grace of the divine. This is an opportune moment to talk about the chair, which allows us to talk about RAL. So I thank Guru Maitreya ji, the divine lineage of Isa, my parents, my family, for the blessings and the grace given. Namaskar. Your question?
How is RAL and energy working?
Okay, so to come to understanding of the energy and how it is working with us on a day-to-day basis, we have to understand some basic concepts. So we are actually composed of particles, and thus we are all energy bodies as matter, and we are constantly radiating energy. So like you understand in physics back in school days, each particle, so each atom has an energy field around it. So the electron is moving around it and it radiates energy. So, and we are a composite of all of these atoms, and we become a composite matter, which is indirectly radiating energy on its own. So each one of us is an energy particle. Now if you understand this, all matter around you, so be it the chair, the bed, the walls, human beings, plants, animals, all of them are matter, and they are also radiating energy, including the earth itself. So these are life formats. We are actually radiating energy continuously, even though we are sleeping, walking, talking, having a bath. So what happens is, when we have various emotions, and each emotions and what we have in our mind also changes the pattern of energy around us. So let's say, for example, I am relaxed completely. In that case, the energy which is exuding out from us is like a calmer state. So I'm a relaxed state, and it's not, and when I'm angry, then at that point of time the energy pattern changes around me. So a person who comes in my proximity, at that time that person is able to immediately sense the person is distraught. So either that person is happy or sad or angry, you can start sensing beforehand. Most of the time what happens is, we have to come really close to that person to actually realize this point. So we continuously exude this energy. We are absorbing energy as well as we are reflecting energy, and we are projecting energy. So it's like a ripple in the lake. So you would actually see many ripples, and each of these ripples are crisscrossing each other. There are smaller ripples and there are bigger ripples. So when you see in natural systems, these ripples just smoothly go through each other. But in human interaction, we are also rippling out in the entire lake of consciousness. So if two people are interacting and they are in a calm state, then both of them are able to connect very fast. So my energy body is relaxed and your energy body is also relaxed. So we are in the same frequency and we are able to communicate thus. Now if my energy body and my system is actually showcasing higher energy, and I'm irritated and angry, and the other person is calm, so what happens is I am actually throwing my energy of anger and to the other person, and that person, if he or she is not able to understand this, will get affected very fast. But if the person is relaxed and does not counter it, or does not filter, or does not modulate that, then that wave of energy goes through that person. And so there is no mind coming in saying that I am getting affected by that wave of anger or that wave of sadness. So I chose to decide whether I want to get affected or not affected. So why do we get affected or not affected is fundamentally coming from the concept of I, me, myself. When I have the I part of me very strong, so my words and my thinking will always be, I am affected, I am sad. Why did that person do this to me? How can I change pattern? How can I become better? How can I get more money? How can I become stronger? How can I party more? So those are the I parts working. So when that part is very strong, then the body energy also changes accordingly. So we tend to clash into each other. So two human beings or three human beings coming together in one place will tend to affect each other very fast. We do not realize this, but let's say we go to a gathering and we have a party at somebody's house. We realize that some people we know, some people we don't know. The people we know, we assume certain things we know, because those are my conditions over the past years. But time would have changed, and so when I meet that person again, I carry certain emotion of that interaction of my previous years. That person might have forgotten you, and that person's change would be reflecting in the way you interact now. So when I meet this person, my energy is full of the past emotions, and the second person's emotions are totally now different. So there is a clash of energy which happens, and suddenly during the conversation we realize that we are not able to communicate any further because my frequency has changed and so has the other person's frequency. So the moment, why do we say frequency? It means that the energy has a movement. It's high frequency or low frequency. It's high amplitude or low amplitude. When you're in an agitated state, this energy is really fluctuating. Or when your mind is involved, it changes this pattern. So if I have to come and communicate with the other person, then I need to be in a similar frequency of that person. As they say, when you're in Rome, be a Roman. So when you are with a person, be in the same frequency to allow communication to happen. So energy bodies, when they interact, there are certain communication patterns which start flowing. So the ability to communicate in an effective manner is only possible when you know the other person's energy level, or you're aware of that person's energy so that you can actually modulate yourself accordingly. So when we come to a child, this actually happens very simply when we actually meet children. So we might be like, very important people in life. But when we come and meet a child, all that importance is gone. If I have to communicate with the child, I have to communicate in the language of the child. So suddenly I become a child. And if I am very high and uppity at that point of time, and I am something, that means the I part is very strong in me, then my communication with the child is going to be very difficult. The child will actually get bored or will disconnect. It will try its best to communicate, but realize that fact that it is hitting a wall. So what do? So we actually have to come down to the child's level. That means my frequency has to change. I let go of the I, me, myself over here, and then I come down to the origin, and that is the child in me. And then I open up with the child. Suddenly we realize that the communication is now easier and more fun and more loving, and you actually have fun interacting with the child. And it's easy. And there is no love lost. It's not that the child is going to judge you or you're going to judge the child. This pattern is a reality. And if I start applying this pattern across my day-to-day life on how we interact with human beings and family members and friends, then it becomes much more easier, and we actually do not create difficult situations in our energy fields. What does that mean? It means that whenever there is a clash, then that energy fields which are around me will get affected. And that energy field, once it gets affected, it starts affecting my body. That means, so the body is one state, around the body and inside the body is energy fields. And entire field is working in a state of consciousness, which is around me. So each of the ripple which is getting created, if my energy field is affected, that means I negate it or I judge that point of saying that this is how it has to be done or this is how it should not be done. That means I am playing a role of why this is important or why this is not important. So it's a hard-coded point in that energy field. The other person chooses to accept or not to accept. The moment it accepts, then the communication is okay. The moment it rejects, then there is a counter to it. That means I have to suddenly feel, I have to realize the fact that, I get affected over here and I might get hurt. My ego gets hurt. The moment that happens, then I negate that and I get angry, or I react in a particular way, in a sad way or in an angry way. This creates a scar in my energy field. The other point is when energy actually works in a very simple format. In a normal life, when you start thinking of anything in this life at any given point in time, the energy starts flowing towards that thought. The more I think on the subject, the more the energy is going towards that subject matter. That means my brain cells is actually getting active. So the larger part of my body, even if I'm sitting sedentary, 60 to 70% of the energy of the body is completely pumped into the brain cells. So my mind gets affected. The moment that happens, my emotions are also getting affected, and it starts hardening and it becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. That means the potential energy of that thought becomes higher and higher. At a point, it will become so high that one push and it will start moving into kinetic energy. That means one push, it will start manifesting into action. So the energy follows thought and it finally manifests into an action. So whatever you think, it will happen in some format or the other if the energy is there in that level. So if in simple formats is that we want to become a doctor, so we study hard and we work hard. So we are following that thought with more energy and you continuously work over a period of time to become a doctor. Thus the action has happened. In relation to how this is further affecting is, if I have a event in my life where it has affected me emotionally, so somebody has left me or somebody has said something bad and I get affected by it, so that energy gets into a block. And then that keeps on gravitating over a period of time. If I continuously think over weeks, over months, and then I'm actually increasing that energy level, so it becomes darker and darker. It's a heavy energy in my system itself, in my own consciousness. So I'm carrying that. Likewise, I might be a very irritable person. The reason why I'm irritable is because I'm not getting what I want to do. I don't find my zone. I am not at peace with myself. So everything is irritable to me. So when I want to do something, I will have tens of excuses to that point of time, and I'm not able to do it. So I get more irritated. That means my energy pattern has suddenly started changing. And when I get into an irritable pattern, then I'm actually like, how you see in the coronavirus, all these tentacles which are coming out, I actually become a virus indirectly, an irritable virus. And I start radiating this irritability around me. All the people around me start sensing this energy. And then they start reacting and they start becoming defensive or in an attack mode. And this bouncing of energy, which keeps happening again and again, starts affecting my body also and the other person's body also. Both of us don't realize this. And this starts affecting the body's cells. And slowly, either at the heart level or at the stomach level or at the back level or at the neck level, all the stresses starts manifesting. And because I'm holding on to this, the more I hold on, the more difficult it becomes, and it actually translates into a disease over a period of time. In RAL, what we are actually understanding is we are actually able to zone into a state of calm, into a state of higher level of awareness. That means when you throw a stone in the water and the ripple is expanding, I'm able to see this movement. I'm able to feel it. So when I enter a room, I can actually immediately sense where the difficulties are, whether it's a peaceful zone, whether it's an active zone, whether it's an irritable zone. So I can modulate accordingly, and it allows me to handle the situation much better. Another example is in an office life. When I get into a meeting and I realize that everybody is coming from different viewpoints and I have to communicate, this is where RAL comes in. When I connect to the RAL and I'm practicing RAL daily, 15 to 20 minutes daily, my energy cells and my body cells, everything starts calming down and I'm able to see the expanse. That means the pattern which was very high frequency waves around me starts calming. So the frayed edges of my energy becomes calmer. So when I enter the room, I'm actually, the other people who come to meet me or are listening to me are not defensive. They are not judgmental. They always get a calming effect of myself. And this is the wave which I'm projecting, which is moving because I am in a calmer state and I am able to sense. So I am able to actually sense the other person's energy level, and accordingly I can modulate. For example, because of, if two people are practicing RAL, it becomes easier to communicate, because without communicating, they are able to pick up the thought much beforehand, and the communication becomes easier, and suddenly you become wow and say like, oh, how did the other person know what I'm about to talk, or something deep inside me the other person is aware of. So immediately a connect happens. When we actually look at why I have touched upon so many points, the relevancy of this is my state changes the energy around me and the way I work with it. So the subtlety part of this energy is visible on a day-to-day basis from the time I wake up and to the time I go to sleep. Food has energy itself. Bad food will have a different energy. Spoiled food, you might not be able to sense spoiled food, but for a person who is practicing RAL, will able to sense this food is bad before eating itself. This is the beauty of understanding the subtlety of the energies. That means I start sensing much wider, much larger. My awareness expands really large, and in the process I'm able to see all the smaller parts to it. If my awareness was not large and my awareness was close to my own body, that means my circle of awareness is hardly 4 inches or 5 inches away from my body, then I cannot sense many things. But if I expand my awareness, and then the way to expand the awareness is when my energy changes and my pattern starts relaxing, then my expanse is will start to happen. At that point of time, I'm able to know that this is good, this is bad for me, or these are the problems which can affect my body itself, or it can change my state of happiness into a state of irritability or into a state of anxiety. So I create more stress in the system. The more stress happens in the system, my energy pattern will get affected, and thus my body also, or the matter itself starts changing. So you will get headaches, you will get neck aches, you have constipation, all the reasons why we all go through these days. So in effect, when I am actually sensing, especially for food, for example, so I will know this food. So the food, whoever is cooking, if that person is in an irritable mood or in an angry state, all that state will get into the food, because I am thinking, I'm angry, I'm irritable, I'm sad, I'm emotional, I'm anxious, and I'm cooking rice and dal. All of that starts getting into the food. So the matter also absorbs the energy, and that food gets onto the table, and then you eat. When you eat that food, remnants of the person's emotions and energy, you are also eating. So that energy of that person also you are going to eat, which means your body's state of energy will start getting affected. So if that person is irritable, you'll suddenly realize that you are not happy, or you are also tending towards irritability over a period of time. And if you start continuously having that over a period of time, you will start also reflecting similarly. So as they say, if you are in a happy crowd, you become happy. If you are in a sad crowd, you become sad. So this is the subtlety part of the energy. Over a period of time, we realize that we carry these energy bodies, and this starts affecting us on a day-to-day basis, and it changes my mood. We take off another topic, which is the creative aspect of our lives. When we are in a different zone, when we are in a happy state, we are more creative. When we are in that particular zone, so new ideas, new thoughts, new inspiration starts happening only when you are in a particular zone. So if you are all about in a tight spot, and let's say you are affected, and there are lots of problems in today at this point of time, like for example, my SIM card is not working, and the maid has not turned up, and somebody has to go here, and the car is not starting. All of this creates pressure in my system. At this point of time, if I were to do RAL, even for 1 minute or 2 minutes, and I'm able to zone into a particular state, and a state of calmness comes in. In that state, my awareness expands, 1,000-fold. And just by connecting to that source of energy, I am able to relax all the peripheral part around me and all the people around me. A person doing RAL regularly, that person's sphere of energy or that aura which is around that person starts expanding. So that energy expands into the rooms, into the family area. The more it starts expanding and the more the person continues to meditate, it expands to the house, to the buildings nearby, to the cities and to the roads all across. So a single person starts creating a larger wave, and it's a calmer wave. In the calmness, it's like you're standing in front of the ocean and it's a calm ocean. You get affected immediately. You can't think of anything in front of a calm ocean. You are relaxed. You don't think about office. You don't think about what's going wrong in your life and what is your purpose in life. Nothing. How do I become better, or how do I take revenge? None of those thoughts happen. You are in a calmer state. That entire ocean is reverberating in a peaceful, natural wave by itself, which hits at you. And because my energy body is so small in comparison to the ocean's energy body, I drown myself in that peace. So a person working on RAL starts becoming a larger energy body of peace, or in a higher state of awareness. And when two or many such people start working together, that peace starts expanding across. Each person, indirectly or directly, as I said earlier, is exuding energy. And each person carries that energy in a particular fashion. When that person sits down on a chair and then leaves that chair, the chair is also absorbing that energy. So if I were to come and sit on that chair, I will actually able to sense who actually sat over there, or the energy of that person. So that energy, if it is an affected energy, for example, there are certain diseases the person might be carrying. So that disease will also get absorbed, that energy pattern of that disease also gets absorbed into the chair. As a RAL practitioner, when I actually sit on that chair, I immediately sense the disease, or I get very uncomfortable and I immediately quit and move out of that point. So negative energy or diseased areas, I will actually sense in advance. And my sense of awareness is so acute, or rather subtle, that I can actually make my decisions now. Or now I can control and say okay, this is how I will not get affected by this negative energy at this point of time. Not that I'm going to run away from that negative energy. I can either allow it to pass through me, or I can actually create a shield around me and say that I'm protected, and that energy body will not get affected. That will not affect myself or my energy system. So I will stay in a better state. I will not get tired, because negative energy can suck the energy out of you completely. And a person who is angry, or you have energy bodies which can actually suck the energy out of you. So energy works in a fundamental principle in physics, as we say, as water flows from a higher level to a lower level. So energy also flows from a higher level to a lower level. So if the energy is not there in that person, and another higher energy body comes in, whether it's a negative energy or whether it's a positive energy, it will still flow and affect the lower energy body. So one has to know and become aware of their own level of energy and increase that level of energy in a fashion which is smooth and not frayed, in a state of happiness, which will thus counter all the negative energy around me unknowingly. So a practitioner of RAL on a daily basis has close to about 8 to 10 hours of that effect through the day. So I'm covered. By the time I finish RAL in the night, I'm covered for the night and I get rejuvenated. So and this is a cycle which continuously happens. It's like washing clothes. So you wash daily or you have a bath daily. So why do you have a bath daily? So all the grime and the dirt is cleansed completely. You feel fresh, and you come out of it in a different state. So the dirt is gone, you become clean, and then you continue through the day, and the next day again you have a bath. Likewise, my energy body also needs a daily bath. If I don't have this daily bath, what happens is the grime starts settling in, the dirt starts settling in over a period of time, and it becomes hardened, and then it becomes so caked that you will require acid to remove this, or surgery to cut this off. The energies are so subtle, we don't realize that our bodies can get affected after 4 years and 5 years. People having heart conditions, people having liver conditions, people having stomach issues, headaches, all of that is a constant flow of energy not being understood, or the inability to handle that energies at different points of time, or the inability to handle that emotion. So when we fight, then we create conflict. When I say fight, it doesn't mean at an anger level. It means even of ability to get up from the bed and do something nice, or to go out for a walk or do an exercise. So there is a change from one state to another state. If I keep rejecting the change or that state which is required, then I create conflict in my energy fields, and that becomes continuous, and it moves into lethargy, for example, or I start avoiding that subject matter. So it becomes a dark hole. So indirectly, in my field, or in my layer, all these holes start happening. These are dark areas where the energy is not flowing, or the energy is blocked. Ral allows, it's like a grace of energy. It's like the ocean which comes and washes you, and it allows this cleansing to happen. So it's like the shower which I switch on and I have a bath. Ral is like that. It's like a shower where I allow myself to be cleansed. I only have to rub the soap and use the soap on, or the shampoo, and rinse myself. But the water is the grace. I have actually switched on or turned the tap to allow the grace to fall on me, and to allow the cleansing to happen within me. So the spiritual cleansing happens. When that happens, the energies and the cells start getting relaxed, start tuning itself to a higher frequency. In physics, again, going back to physics, simple example is tuning forks. So you hit the tuning fork, it emits a sound, and it's like, let's say 256 kilohertz, and you bring another tuning fork closer to it. The second tuning fork starts vibrating automatically, and it also starts emanating the sound. Why do you think this happens? It's a simple point of one energy body, another energy body with a different frequency, suddenly syncing together because of proximity. So the first energy body, which is the first tuning fork, was emitting energy at a higher frequency, and the other energy body, which was at lower frequency, comes close to it, starts getting affected, and starts emanating the sound. And this is the principle. So all of us are tuning forks. Each one is affecting each other by thoughts, by emotion, by thinking. I start becoming aware, and more aware, and in the process I can actually understand that where my body is suffering, and how do I cleanse that suffering, or how do I remove that suffering, and how do I reduce the suffering? The answer to that is I need a higher energy source. I myself cannot, do everything. Because if I say I myself cannot do everything or I can do it, then it simply says the I part of me is very strong. So in that case, I have created a large shell, a strong shell, where I cannot allow the larger energy to penetrate into me. The more stronger the I is, I cannot have a bath of spirituality. It's not possible because my shell is like very strong. The moment I let go of the I and I start reducing the level of I-ness in me, the ego part of me, the power of me of who I am, and I become a simple person, or I become like a little child. And when I stop judging people around me, or what is the other person going to do, what can I gain from that person, how can I change the person, how can I make more money, how can I get my car, how can I make my house, all of that is creating energy patterns around me. And this is my shell. And that is my ego. This becomes stronger and stronger. The more stronger it becomes, the more it gets affected on my body matter. Because my original body matter as a little child was part of nature. Over a period of time, I have changed my frequency. And I realized that because my breath pattern itself has changed over a period of time. I am breathing from the top part of my lungs. I'm no more breathing from my stomach area. As a child, I used to breathe like that. If I lie down, I realize that I'm breathing from my stomach. My stomach goes up and down. Once this breath pattern has changed, the energy pattern also changes. So when I'm angry, my breath pattern is different. My breath is faster, shallower. When I'm relaxed, my breath is deeper. And it's automatic. In Ral, this automatically starts changing. There is no effort over here. As I said, the grace is such, it's like the shower. The water is switched on by connecting to Ral. So you activate the shower and you allow yourself to be cleansed. I don't have to do something to change anything. It happens on its own. I become a little child and a happier child. In the process, people around me start getting affected by my state of calmness or my state of happiness and my state of non-judgmental. While I'm actually in the process of this of Ral, which is on a continuous basis, I also start realizing where I'm going wrong on a day-to-day basis. I start fine-tuning my reactions and actions. My demands are different. My demands are lesser. My sense of happiness is minute. For every single moment, I can become happy. A butterfly can make me happy. A water dropping on a leaf can make me happy. And I become in a much more calmer state. I start connecting to nature in a different way now. And that is called the syncing with the source of energy. Over a period of time, larger humanity, when they start coming into the same frequency and connecting to the nature's frequency, we start becoming different. We start becoming more sensible, and the way we are working, we start realizing that simple things like waste or sustainable usage of energy, electricity usage, water usage, simple things of food, clothes, we start realizing that all of this is changing, the energy patterns around the universe itself. Petrol, gas. Suddenly I realized that I am actually detrimental to nature as a human being, more than somebody who is actually nurturing the nature or caring. Suddenly, because the I part has become so strong that I want this and I want that. A new camera comes in, I want a new camera. A new phone comes in, I want an upgrade happens. In simple terms, my phone is very basic and it can communicate one person to another. Because the I becomes more stronger, I actually move away from my origin and I create another parallel universe. And today what we have is called the digital universe, where the emotion is lost, where the connect is lost, where it's all about one statement and the other person reacting to that statement. Physically we are not there. So what happens is when we move into a zone where the physicality is lost, the emotions also get lost and the energy also changes, and then it all becomes mechanical over a period of time, and we actually live in a virtual world. So we disconnect ourselves. This will have its ramifications in the future, definitely. We can't foresee that, what is going to happen and how it is going to happen. But person or people working on RAL start becoming aware of these things, and they start moving away from a non-physical level to a physical level of connect. If imagine children were kept in different places and they were asked to play. So they would play in their own zone, in their own room. In the past, children were together and they were playing and they were creating a ruckus, and there was so much of energy and happiness around. Today we don't see that. Everybody is studying, everybody is learning, and everybody is trying to become something. And every parent is trying to make their child, do something very different, which is probably their own emotions which they are transferring. We don't realize that how we are affecting. But the child is no more a child. It's now a product of the parent. And we are actually creating a different child. Not the way the child is supposed to be or the way it was, free-flowing. Over a period of time, we actually get affected, and we are byproducts of what our parents have thought about, of what our parents wanted, what our society wanted. The pure child in us is lost. The love part is actually reduced. We have fragments of love and happiness in us. And over a period of time, by the time we get into office life and working life, those factors get diminished. And that starts affecting us. Somewhere deep inside us, it keeps knocking. Because the human spirit and the origin of nature is still alive. And that's the spark which is there, the spark of light, which keeps, it's like a spandan, it keeps pulsating. If I connect to it, I'm saved. If I don't connect to it, I become another personality on my own. When I die, none of these things would have mattered. Only thing is I'll have regrets, because at that point of time, you actually come to the same point at the time of beginning of your birth. That original state is re-etched back. At that point of time, my zone of energy is like expanded. And we kind of know. And at that point of time, we also regret. And that regret creates an emotional baggage in my consciousness state. And when this body finishes and the matter is relegated to the elements, the consciousness still carries that thought of regret. And that spirit force is actually moving around with that state of whatever it was there of wanting, in whatever format, it wants to fulfill that. So it will continuously look to, from that point, it will continuously search to become matter again. So this is the consciousness now driving itself to become matter so that it can execute that thought all over again. And the cycle continues. So every time the want is there and the desire is there, and if the fulfillment is not there, then it continuously strives to fulfill itself. Whereas in a child, those wants are different. The child, if I do not tell the child to become an engineer or a doctor, then the child is a simple child. It only plays with stones, it can play with a bug, it can play with paper. It does not require a Spider-Man toy, it does not require a Santa Claus dream. It is by itself a state of happiness. Anything can make it happy. Or a screw, or a pair of slippers, it'll play around. And then suddenly you realize, if you watch a child closely, you will realize what you've missed and what you're missing actually. The more I'm connected with children and with nature, I can regroup myself, all my cells can become that entity once again, into its original state, into its original frequency, into its original awareness. Nature, for example, has its own awareness levels, and it's visible in the birds and the animals and the plants. They know, they sense. Why does that happen? That state of awareness is an expanded state. When they communicate, they can communicate without mobiles, without calling out also. They sense. Elephants, when they make a sound, it's a rumble, and it's low frequency, high amplitude. It can be heard 5 kilometers away. Why does a single elephant sound reach 5 kilometers away? Has to be understood, because there's a particular amplitude which is being generated by that energy body of that elephant, which travels through the airwaves, through the earth, and reaches another family of elephants who suddenly realize that this is the source of water. And this is how the communication happens. In the past, let's say at the beginning of time and at the beginning of humankind, we all had the capability to connect at that level. We were able to communicate to each other because our awareness was very expanded. And it can only expand when the I is not there, when the shell of me is gone. And thus I am open. And thus I am open to good as well as the bad. But I don't differentiate it. I don't hold it with me. I allow it to happen. And it passes through me. The moment I create a judgmental point, or I create a state of result, that's a point when I create a condition and I create a conflict zone. The more such conflicts and more such conditions happen, the I becomes stronger, and I become bereft of the larger grace. So I will actually start working with smaller parameters, and whatever somebody tells me, I will listen to it and hope this will work for me. So it's like a needle in a haystack, and you're searching for that, whereas we don't require the needle nor the haystack. So everything around us is enough. The air is enough. We should know how to protect the air. We should know how to handle the water. We should know how to handle the earth. And likewise, so COVID taught us quite a lot of things. When all of us and all our consciousness and all our energies were reduced to zero. We were all lock, stock and barrel inside one house. And the energy around changed. When the energy changed and it became calmer, the birds and the animals who were there, they came out of their hiding. And nature bloomed. And it was peaceful and it was nice. All we needed to know at that point was, if we open our doors and we stepped out, can we be relaxed and not hunt around and not get agitated, so that the energy patterns can be relaxed and something more exciting can happen? So if I create the situation of anger, sadness, irritability, not only in my own house, in my building, in my neighborhood, in my country, then all of this will have its impact on nature. So whether you're building houses, you are creating energy patterns over there, and you are dismantling the energy over there of that place. You create more population, there would be more energy changes which will happen. So energy finally decides, the larger energy decides to balance itself, because the energy flows from higher to lower. In one way, what we are facing as climatic changes is a resultant of our inability to sense this 20 years ago. It's like water when you start boiling. Initially, it takes a lot of time to boil. Once it reaches that boiling point, it suddenly splutters and starts becoming furious. And the energy is very high. And then it crosses over and the water can boil over. Similarly is what we are going through. We have come to a point of boiling over. To change, it requires a lot of human consciousness to actually say, like, stop. We shall not consume, or we shall reduce our consumption, to allow the energy to sustain itself. Or to say, like, okay, we'll create more plants and more trees. We'll stop the buildings. But this requires such a huge effort. But that huge effort is possible if there are 1,000 RAL people working together at the same time. And if the practice of RAL happens, the grace spreads. The water, the shower cap, the shower head actually becomes larger. That means there is larger grace happening. And when larger grace happens in a small pocket, it starts becoming exponential very fast. Just like water boiling over, I can have an exponential level of happiness happening and level of peace to allow the energy patterns to change on the entire earth. And it might not be possible in the next 5 years, 10 years. What is possible could be 100 years from now, 200 years from now, where the earth can breathe easy. We experienced what it was and what it meant during COVID times. It is possible that you have larger peace in the end. Thank you. Are you there?
I'm still here.